Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas announced on Friday the redesignation and extension of temporary amnesty status for nearly 18,000 Afghans who were given asylum in the U.S. after the Afghanistan withdrawal in 2021. According to the Washington Times, in a matter of months, the resettlement operation brought almost 100,000 Afghans into the country, often without ever interviewing them in person. The TPS announcement will allow more than 3,000 Afghans to keep their amnesty status in the U.S. In addition, another 14,600 Afghans will become eligible for amnesty status. The resettlement operation has been troubled with reported discrepancies and concerns. In 2022, a report by the Department of Defense said that Biden's agencies failed to investigate Afghans who arrived in the U.S. and that about 50 Afghans were flagged for significant security concerns after the resettlement. Also in 2022, a Project Veritas report accused the Biden administration of resettling Afghans listed on the federal government's terrorism watch list in American communities. Tim.
Well, Mike, a new Biden administration program is growing the already crisis-level illegal migration by flying aliens directly from their countries to dozens of U.S. cities. Newly obtained records show the program lets immigrants use the administration's app to pick a destination, buy an airline ticket, and fly unseen, according to the Washington Examiner. Todd Bidsman with the Center for Immigration Studies spoke to Steve Bannon on War Room about this.
The Biden administration's DHS has been authorizing the flights from foreign countries directly into U.S. airports. 43 U.S. airports, so far 221,000 migrants, uncounted, never discussed, never published.
Please don't call them. Please don't call them migrants. They're not migrants. They're illegal aliens. 221,000.
Now, that number is said to be underreported, as it only included Venezuelans, Haitians, Cubans, and Nicaraguans, with numbers from 5 other nations held back by the DHS. Bidsman said with the FOIA documents released, the DHS is still hiding critical information.
That's just 4 nationalities. I just want to remind you that's only 4. There are 5 more nationalities that they're sandbagging us on still, as well as the destination cities.
Now, CBP has redacted and withheld the locations of the 43 interior ports of entry that have been utilized by this direct flight program, claiming its release would harm law enforcement techniques or procedures. Greg?
Joining us now is the president for FAIR, the Federation for American Immigration Reform, Dan Stein. Welcome to Victory News, Dan.
Wonderful to be with you.
CBP officers report 11,000 encounters with illegals in the past 24 hours. And while we're watching the overrun of our southern border, are you not shocked that Biden is flying 221,000 illegal immigrants directly from their country to one of 43 U.S. cities?
Well, it'd be hard to shock me at this point based on everything else the Biden administration has done, but that's the tip of the iceberg, as Mr. Bensman pointed out. They've been running these secret night flights for several years now, and they do it out of the cover of darkness. People can't see what's going on. Taxpayers, local communities have no concept of what's being done, and there's no theoretical limit because basically the Biden administration's breaking the law, and they're breaking the law routinely in a bunch of different areas. And these parole programs that use these applications for people to come into the country and actually never show up at a port of entry are part of their massive law-breaking process.
Okay. Alejandro Mayorkas announced 18,000 Afghans being given extended amnesty. The Biden administration failed to thoroughly vet the Afghan people brought here when the Taliban took over, some being on the terrorist watch list. Is it too late now to dig into their past?
Well, it's never too late to dig into that past. Until they're U.S. citizens, it's fairly easy to revoke immigration status. Once they're naturalized citizens, then it's more difficult, but it's never too late. And certainly if they eventually make an asylum claim, that's another opportunity to vet them and their background. The question is, with the Taliban in charge in Afghanistan, can you do that? Now, the other thing, though, is that Secretary Mayorkas is routinely extending temporary protected status, as it's called, willy-nilly to all kinds of foreign nationals. And what we would expect to see in a second Biden term would be the use of TPS for large-scale millions and millions of illegal aliens in the country now from all sorts of countries. He just extended it for Venezuelans, thereby incentivizing more Venezuelans to keep pouring in here from Colombia Venezuela and elsewhere. We don't know. Venezuela is a socialist communist state. We don't know to what extent the aliens may include people who are foreign operatives or spies or what have you. This whole process is chaotic. And anybody who remembers the horrible terror of 9/11 and remembers how those people came into the country has to be shocked and appalled that the Biden administration has willy-nilly, intentionally sabotaged U.S. immigration entry controls from day one.
Yeah, I don't think we have any idea how many are actually here and what they're bringing in. So tell us about FAIR and what you're trying to accomplish for Americans.
Well, FAIR is an organization of concerned citizens all across America. Yeah, millions of Americans who've been part of a national coalition to try to end illegal immigration and make sure the American people get to decide who and how many people get to immigrate to this country. Immigration should serve our interests as a nation and enhance our priorities as a nation and not be run by foreign despots or criminal cartels or anybody else telling us how many people can come in. And our basic objective from the very beginning was to establish the rule of law, which is the cornerstone of citizenship.
Okay, you brought up
frankly, Biden has destroyed that concept.
Absolutely. You brought up the cartels, so let's talk about that. The Mexican cartels and their influence at our southern border. Representative Dan Crenshaw has compared their power to, of all things, ISIS in the Middle East. What's your perspective?
I think all of us need to know the degree to which cartel money is infiltrating our political system, because as we all know, common sense, this kind of organized crime has to be filtrating through our political process. And to understand why it is that nothing is done, why we send so much money to Ukraine to defend their borders, but we won't defend ours, it's got to be about corruption and money. This is outrageous. Cartels have no right to decide the sovereignty of the United States.
Amen. I agree with that. How can we find out more about FAIR and your work to secure our borders?
Well, be part of our team. Go to FAIRUS, that's FAIRUS.org, FAIRUS.org. Join up free, get all the information you need, because we need people all across the country to take on this challenge.
We do. Dan Stein, thank you so much for doing this and being with us today.